Welcome to another episode of the Minx Labrada Mysterious World podcast. And today's subject matter is discernment. Do you have it? Do you not? Let's go ahead and get right into it. One of the tools I like to use for discernment is call it a website. It's also an app, NewsBlur. And NewsBlur allows you to subscribe to different RSS feeds. And what that does is give you voices from different independent journalists. You can even subscribe to MSM type stuff and compare and contrast. But really, you get for free, you get 20 different RSS feeds. And do you really want to, I've got kind of a mainstream one, Japan Times. You get some baseball in there. But it's interesting because you do get a Japanese perspective that might not be picked up in America, which is very interesting. Let's go ahead, start with this one here. American Thinker blog is a bit of I guess you'd call it op-ed. And it's a pretty interesting site. Don't always read it based on the headlines, but sometimes there's a really good deep dive into a certain subject. Here, this article is Virginia Police Academy officially signs graduate certificates with Chinese characters. Pushback met with insinuations of bigotry and expulsions. Okay, that's great. Good. Yeah. So without even reading any further into that, the whole thing that they're building an army out of immigrants to come and get the people that aren't down with the New World Order. Well, there you go. That kind of lends itself to that, doesn't it? Let's just dig in a little bit. According to Fox News report out yesterday, a Virginia County Criminal Justice Training Academy recently cut ties with a local municipality after its police chief pushed back on the academy's director signing graduate certificates with Chinese language characters. The county is Fairfax, one of the top 25 wealthiest counties in the United States. Oh yeah, that's where AOL was. You've got mail and all those annoying CD-ROMs you'd get in the mail. Should have kept a bunch of those and, I don't know, made a jacket. But it'd be a really crazy looking jacket. All right. Sidetrack. Herndon Police Chief Maggie DeBoard complained that the Academy Director, Major Wilson Lee, used Chinese characters to sign their certificates when graduates receive when they complete training at the Fairfax County Criminal Justice Academy. In an email sent last month and obtained by the Associated Press, DeBoard told Lee, "I just found out the Academy graduation certificates were signed by you in some other language, not in English. This is unacceptable for my agency. I don't know what our Herndon officers, boy, say that 10 times real fast, to receive these, and I am requesting that they are issued certificates signed in English, the language that they're expected to use as an officer." Great quote. All right. And Olivia Murray is the author. And then it's got a click, and you could click on her, and it doesn't tell you anything about her. It lets you know all the articles she wrote. That's a better description to find out who somebody is than just a little, I'm an expert. I'm a scientist. Be afraid of the bird flu. Right? Okay, so that's a good one. Another one, of course, Breitbart, world famous, of course. Andrew Breitbart. Some people think he was murdered. Not sure, but the people that say it, I trust. So yeah, probably maybe. So here's one that you won't see in mainstream news. Former bodyguard says Diddy had every room taped and bugged. Politicians, princes, preachers are implicated. All right. Well, this lends itself. See, when you read independent news, if you are on it, which you should be, and by on it, I mean using your discernment, All right. The term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA purportedly to discredit anybody asking questions about the JFK assassination. All right. And I can say that because I've heard so many other people say that. I haven't really even researched it, but so many other people have said it that it's got to be accurate. And it makes a lot of sense because people do it all the time. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist? The normies where I used to work would say that kind of stuff. You know, I remember getting hydroxychloroquine. I got a little verklempt right around the new year. So I ordered hydroxychloroquine. And when I mentioned, you know, a couple other people were getting their verklempt. And I said, hey, yeah, you could use Dr. Stella Emanuel and she'll send you, you know, some hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin, depending on, you know, what your body needs. And almost before I got the IN out of ivermectin, this guy's like, oh, the horse dewormer. And just like, you know, who are these idiots I'm working with? Clearly, I don't need to be there. So I left. Now, one of the things that I think really harms people was brought up years ago by David Icke, and that's the ridicule. Don't even engage is my theory, you know, and also have no room in your life for those who discredit you. Now, years ago, I became friends with T. Bubba Bechtel. He was a Christian, clean comedian, and he pretty big time in that he headlined Grand Ole Opry, and he later got into politics, and he was friends with Chuck Norris, and he was not exactly what he's sure he did, but he was like a Republican representative in the Carter administration, and then went on to become Reagan's, you know, working for Reagan, and got out again when Bush was in there. And he told me some crazy stuff that I could probably just do a whole show on. But one of the things he said is that when you want to succeed, it doesn't hurt. Well, he didn't say it doesn't hurt. He said, get out of where you grew up. Get away from where you grew up. Now, and I did initially. I moved to San Antonio and I took a government job. And it was my third one was here in Pensacola. I needed to get out of San Antonio. It wasn't the city so much. It was the politics and people riding around in their cars with masks on, and the way the grocery store went full commie during, you know, even after Governor Abbott lifted the mask mandate. No. The grocery store there, H-E-B, Herbert Edward Butts, still insisted that you wear a mask. Made no sense at all. I told him to piss off. I started ordering groceries and just going to pick them up at a different chain, so I didn't have to go inside. But, which I kind of got used to, which is dangerous because it's so easy. So, by allowing those you know to hold you down is essentially what his warning was. Is what you're doing is you're limiting your success. Okay, maybe you're not part of a family like people that maybe push success, okay? There's a lot of negativity out there, and sometimes people don't want you to succeed because they were lazy and didn't work on themselves. And it's easier to criticize you and tell you not to do something than it is to actually accomplish a goal themselves, right? And it's easy just to discredit things. I mean, I do it. I discredit stuff, and I don't mean to, but it's sometimes it's just human nature. But getting into that abundance mindset sometimes means you got to tell people to piss off. Like anybody kind of in your way or saying No. And it's what I learned when I came back to Pensacola. I moved to a completely different part of town, and I never see any of the people that I really grew up with. Occasionally, but not really often. And, sadly, rest his soul, T-Bubba's gone. So he wouldn't be able to tell me, hey, what'd you move back for? But really, is what happened was, in the last 10 years, Pensacola has really become this great town. And I used to say it years ago, boy, if they fixed up downtown, boy, Pensacola would be happening. Well, the ether was out there. I didn't need to say it. It just happened, and it really is a great town now. Maybe getting a little crowded, maybe getting a little pricey, and I'm definitely seeing the gentrification happen, especially in the parts of Pensacola that used to not be so prosperous. Okay. But there again, using my own discernment, even advice from a professional comedian whom I greatly respected, T. Bubba, I even made up my own mind about that, thinking, you know what? I'm a water guy. I can't be landlocked. I can't spend every weekend of my spare time at Waco Surf, which is what I did when I lived in Texas. It's a wave pool. It's awesome. And I thought I'd go back, but we get mildly enough surf here, believe it or not, in the Gulf of Mexico, that keeps me satisfied, and maybe not going back to a wave pool anytime soon. Of course, I think they're building one closer here, and I'm sure I'll go to that. But that's how it is. We maybe do a whole show about that. There's no conspiracy about it. You get barreled, you get in that ocean, you get that feeling of power under you, and it's kind of all you want to do. And there's also a dopamine effect, not only from the physical exertion, but whatever negative ions do to your body. Like when you get out of the shower, you feel good. Part of that is negative ions. Negative ions come from falling water, which is why people like the ocean and waterfalls and things like that, and boating. You get all that water movement, it flushes your body with negative ions, which also purportedly is a kind of a youth serum. Not really, liquidy, but the molecules, right? So when you get barreled, when you're inside the tube of a wave, the hypothesis is that you're getting a full body flush of negative ions. And I tested it once. I had not a hangover because I wasn't really into drinking. I had a headache. And normally when you go into cold water and have a headache, it'll get worse. So my first duck dive, a duck dive is where you go under the wave so you don't get beat up and pushed back to shore when you're trying to go out to catch where the waves start. And you did. Yeah, I got that ice cream headache, but it started to dissipate. And then when I got my first tube, I ended up getting 3 tube rides that day. First tube, headache went away a little bit. Second tube, headache went away even more. Third tube, completely gone. All right. So that is a pretty good anecdote to tell you the power of negative ions. Okay. Way off track. I do tend to do that. I'm a bit energetic. Maybe one day we'll do a show on all the different supplements I take, because I've always been energetic, but I do take supplements to increase my energy. And I've been on the protein, the carnivore diet, whole milk, cheese, eggs, steak. And occasionally I party and I get one of those yerba mates, enlightenments. Oh, man. That's party time right there. Which I know is sugary. And then I negate it with some kombucha, which seeks out and destroys sugar. All right. So here's a discernment thing, okay? Put yourself in the shoes of, let's say, what do you want to be? A politician, a prince, a preacher? Let's say you're a prince, okay? It's America. I'm sure some of you have royal legacy, okay? Doesn't mean anything. Our family does too, but that crap didn't send me to college. It's like, oh yeah, the guy was a drunk. He sold his, what did he sell? We had a duke in our family on the German side, and he was a drunk because he sold the title. Which is, give me another reason why I don't like alcohol. Okay, so Sean Diddy Combs' former bodyguard Gene Deal says the rapper had politicians, princes, and preachers in his house for certain gatherings adding that there may be video footage of these individuals engaging in salacious or illicit activities. Say that 10 times real fast. Salacious or illicit. Yeah, I'm not going to try because I love you all and shouldn't have to do that to somebody listening to a podcast. So let's see. Little Rod, that sounds like a great name for a bodyguard. He's probably like 6'8". Little Rod said his affidavit that Diddy had every room taped and bugged, and the rapper's former bodyguard added, "Can you imagine? He had every room taped and bugged." And they found them in the house. As Breitbart News reported, music producer Rodney Jones, also known as Little Rod, that's not the bodyguard, is also suing Combs, his former employer, alleging the rapper sexually assaulted him and forced him to perform sex acts with prostitutes in front of Combs while he was living with him for an extended period of time. Jones also said he believes he was drugged and raped during a February 2023 party. Wow. So that kind of supports my hypothesis that P. Diddy, the P standing for penis, because he liked some of that P. Diddy. Can't prove it, but that's what I'm thinking. All right. Cryptagon is interesting. Cryptagon is little short blurbs. Okay. Oh, let's look at this one. And now, bird flu pandemic could be 100 times worse than COVID, scientists warn. Who are these scientists and where can we find them? Right? I really want to know who these people are because I think you're full of shit. All right? We are not putting up with it. We are not putting up with it. Okay, so this article starts off with different posts on X. Of course, New York Post, your bastion of truth, right? Ha! Bird flu pandemic could be 100 times worse than COVID, scientists warn. Okay, so and they have pictures. And then, oh, come on. That's really a picture? Really? What is that on the ground there? A dead dolphin? That's more like what that looks like. That looks like a dead dolphin. Yeah, that's flippers and an open mouth. See that? Flippers. Okay. So bird flu's getting in the water and killing dolphins? Is that what's happening? And then their little Tyvek suits and be afraid. Then they put the bird flu on the eggs. No, we're all going to be afraid. No, we're not. I honestly think this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And I just think if you push America too far, we'll make Fallujah look like Disney World. That's what I think. I'm not saying I'm connected with people that are planning this. I'm not part of any group that's planning any kind of violence. I'm just saying, hey, if they push the bird flu pandemic. I myself told a guy the other day wearing a mask, "You look ridiculous and masks don't do shit." I said it the other way around, didn't I? Yeah, I did that. I said, masks don't do shit and you look ridiculous, which is what everyone should say to someone wearing a mask. Granted, there was a little black grandmother looking lady the other day walking out of the store I shop at. I didn't say it to her because... All right. But I did say it to a guy. Had to go to a Walmart for a reason. Don't normally do that. Sometimes you got to go. Mostly avoid it. In fact, I do avoid it unless it's necessary. But here's a little New York Post. Okay. The H1N1 avian flu has spread rapidly since the new strain was detected in 2020. Oh, that spread rapidly. It's now 2024. So how rapidly did that actually spread? They're so full of shit. As well as commercial poultry and backyard flocks. But it has now been detected in mammals with cattle herds across 4 states becoming infected. And on Monday, federal health officials, don't give any names, you don't want to face, announced that a dairy worker in Texas caught the virus. So one guy caught it and they're already ready to call it a pandemic. I'm telling you, when I lived in San Diego, that piece of crap mayor and that piece of crap city council they had shut the city down in the summer of 2020 because there were 36 people in ICU and 1,200 new cases in Bexar County that had almost 2 million people in it. And when I did the math, and there's a lot of zeros before the number, it was like 0.00008% chance of just catching it, and ended up in ICU with it. There were so many zeros, it was ridiculous. Like a billionth of a chance of, or a millionth of a chance to catching it. It's so stupid. But that's what they did. They locked the city down on the 4th of July weekend. You dirty pigs. How is San Antonio putting up with being captured? You got the Alamo right there in the middle of the city. All right? That should warn you. Don't take any shit. And another thing they did that made me want to really leave that city before I left is there was a statue put up of Lenin's head, giant chrome Lenin's head with Mao Zedong on a tightrope on his head. Like it was supposed to be, oh yeah, right, because whatever. Just the fact that that was in America, I was really waiting for somebody with a big old diesel truck to wrap a chain around it and just drag it down the street. That's how offensive it was to people. But that's what they do. It's all part of fifth generational warfare where they're trying to demoralize you. And then part of the demoralization program is to lock you down. All right. I know a lot of people that are still damaged from the lockdown psychologically. Okay. Like they're not recovered yet. I can tell. I might not be 100% recovered yet. I think we're all a little pissed off about it still. All right. Now here we go. This is a quote from like nobody because they don't tell you who these experts are. This virus has been at the top of the pandemic list for many, many years and probably decades. Oh, there is a name. Dr. Suresh Kukapundi, a bird flu researcher from Pittsburgh, said at a recent panel discussing the issue, according to the Daily Mail. All right, let's see who this guy is. Let's search with Bing. So done with Google. All right, so here he is. And this is another thing that you should do too. When you see an article and they give you the name of an expert, find out who that expert is. Don't just give him a free pass. Okay. So he's in the School of Public Health. And he's a professor and department chair. Okay. Okay, he's from India. Prior to joining the University of Pittsburgh, Dr. Kuchipudi held various academic and clinical positions. He served at the Dorothy Four Huck and J. Lloyd Huck Chair, Professor in Emerging Infectious Diseases at the Penn State Huck Institutes of Life Sciences, and acted as the interim director of the Penn. All right. So definitely all entrenched in academics. And of course, if you're a student of conspiracy theories, well, then right off the bat, you're going to say to yourself, oh, yeah, wow, you can really get a good open-minded view at a university. There's no way for me to say that without laughing now. So they've lost. They've already lost all their experts, all their people. Nobody cares anymore. Get out of the way of America, basically, is what we're saying at this point. We got stuff to do. All right. The children are in charge now, but, and this Mike Johnson piece of crap, right? Bought and paid for, control file, inches thick, right? Every time you see somebody not doing what they're supposed to be doing, think of P. Diddy and his cameras in his room and control files. That's what they do. Oh, you think you went to bed with a supermodel last night? Hey, guess what? She's 14. You're busted. Now, do what we say or the whole world knows, and you go to jail for being a pedophile. All right? Discernment. All right, if you meet a supermodel at a party or at a bar, get some ID, confirm some age. If you're not doing that and you think maybe if she's really, really young and you're my age, all right, that's great to get attention. I like being complimented and I like being approached, but let me tell you something. Ain't nothing happening unless I see that ID. If I don't see crow's feet around the eyes, yeah, you're getting carded. All right, let's see. What was this one here? I forgot what that one was. It's just called Feed. Bongino report. Oh, I see what he does. That's Bongino's feed, and he just he uploads his videos to his feed. All right, that's maybe something I can start doing. Gateway Pundit has been pretty good at getting stuff out there. Let's see. Trump files recusal motion to remove Judge Juan Merchan from Stormy Daniels' hush money trial over daughter's Democrat-connected work. Details, right? Mainstream media doesn't want to give you details. They want to give you the narrative for you to follow, like a good little troll. Okay, here's InfoWars. I added that today. I guess they fixed that feed because it wasn't on my NewsBlur for a while because it just stopped updating after a while. So maybe that all happened when they were really going after Alex really hard in the paint and may have fouled the feed. But here's a good one that you're not going to see in mainstream news. Illegal alien arrested for nearly decapitating wife just days after entering U.S. First of all, it wasn't his wife. It was a Latin couple that invited this creep into their home. And I guess while hubby was at work, dude went nuts and killed the wife. All right, discernment. You're going to go to work and leave your wife alone in a house with a man you've met maybe 5 days ago. Got to be completely out of your mind. And that's a pretty good indication of the mind control monster that's out there with mainstream media. All right. I know a guy that had no idea what's going on in Ireland. And in this month, he's going there on vacation with his daughter. And I go, well, have you seen what's going on in Ireland? He goes, no, what? And he goes, oh yeah, well that's only happened in Dublin. And I'm thinking I just make all the excuses you want. I'm not saying don't go to Ireland, but go with the knowledge that you might see a lot of people there rioting for one reason or another. All right, a Muslim guy stabbed some girls. Did he kill them? I forgot. And the Irish people went nuts. And then what did the Irish government do? They doubled down and called that a hate crime to speak out against essentially Muslims. And it sounded more like, oh, you don't like people stabbing your kids? Well, that's illegal to say that's bad now. I'm telling you. All these places are going to make Disney World look like Fallujah. They keep pushing the buttons. Gerald Celente is famous for saying when people lose everything, they lose it. They lose it. And I'm starting to feel that coming on boy, those Irish did lose it. All right. And now there's calls for like Conor McGregor to be but if you look at who's in charge, and then in Scotland, they passed that crazy law, hate speech law, and you look at who's in charge there, and nobody looks Scottish. Right? All right. Japan Times. Japan Times is pretty good to keep track of what's going on with Korea, North Korea and whatnot, and then also earthquake stuff and Fukushima. Natural news, that is, I forgot the guy's name, the health ranger. Sometimes he co-hosts for Alex Jones. He's pretty smart. And there's always something good here. And one of the things that, here's one on chirotherapy. I haven't tried mine yet. I did buy an ice bath. I will do a video of me getting into ice water. But I tell you right now, I know what happens to me when I get in cold water. I turn into a confused French guy. Like, blah, 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 blah. I don't know why, but that's what comes out of my mouth. Very strange. Maybe everybody turns into a confused French guy. I don't know. What is this? Newsbusters I like. Newsbusters, if I remember correctly, we're doing a series. I think this is the same guys. But they were doing videos where they would pretend to be board members and they would go and give speeches at boards and just totally turn the whole thing on its head. And we're talking about the kind of corporations, I'm not sure which ones they did it to, but, you know, the kind of people like PP&E that had a bean counter. That whole Aaron Brockovich movie's about it, where they had a bean counter and he decided that it's going to cost us less money to just leak these chemicals that mess people up than to dispose of them properly. So let's just go ahead and leak the chemicals. This is all about money. Freak. Absolute freak. Not. Yeah. Boy, you talk about a red ass beatdown. That was in California. If that happened in, maybe it did. If that happened in the South, though, I think you would get a red ass beatdown. Just saying. I grew up in L.A., Lower Alabama. That's what we call Pensacola, Lower Alabama. And I got friends with really heavy Alabama accents, but they're from here. That's just because that's the way his family talks. And then you got Pensacola starting to become really international. Anyway, it's a Navy town, so there's people from all over. Populist Press, also really good. What's one here? Here's something you won't see. NASCAR star apologizes after nasty war of words with owner of 10 Cup Series tracks. So what did they say? How much you want to guess it's something about woke? I'm just going to guess. One of NASCAR's top track owners deleted social media post earlier Friday morning in a back-and-forth spat with top driver Denny Hamlin that began when Hamlin criticized the repaving of Sonoma Raceway in California. All right. When paving on the budget goes wrong, Hamlin posted on X, oh, well, he just didn't think it was a good job. All right. So that happens. Yeah, you can air it out. Especially if you're risking your life on the damn thing. Where the top speeds are approaching 200 or over 200 sometimes. Yeah, you don't want a messed up track. Here's Revolver News. This is Darren Beatty's site, and he's a pretty good writer and I guess news aggregator. And today people are talking about that lightning struck the Statue of Liberty. Okay. Isn't there a lightning rod on top of it? I thought there was. I know it's made of metal, so it probably wouldn't be the best thing to hang out in a storm. Let's see. Millions of people in 3 crucial swing states have registered to vote without photo ID this year. That's great. See, this is the kind of stuff that he focuses on. Oh, he actually just linked from InfoWars. So that's interesting. So I guess he's kind of a news aggregator on his NewsBlur feed, but he does write his own articles on his own site, Revolver News. And I recommend giving the guy a listen. He's a frequent guest on Real America's Voice with, what is that called? That would be, I can't think of the guy's name now. War Room with Steve Bannon. So, you know, and then Steve's a bit of, well, he worked for Trump's and he's a bit of a Trump cheerleader. But at the end of the day, I kind of can't disagree with people for voting for Trump, because I'm going to. Is what I do disagree about is not calling him out on saying he's friends with Z. And I think even Steve Bannon mentioned that. And also that he doubled down on the warp speed thing. Again, we all been traumatized by the lockdowns. Nobody wants to hear anything about COVID. I was even asked that, like, when I was working for the Navy within a couple months, officially, right? And I had no response. I just didn't answer. Oh, you're not going to answer me? Nope. That's PII, buddy. Or is it PPI? I hadn't worked for the government in so long. Private PMI, private medical information. And then there's private personal info. Yeah, I probably said PPI. Anyway, whatever. Enough with the government. I guess I'm done with the acronyms. And then IRL, give me a break. In real life, but you're in a video. Don't call anything IRL unless it's Ireland. IRL. Just call it your show, your podcast. All right. IRL would be like if we met you somewhere at a conference. Get a grip. Okay. Simply Scripts. I used to follow that heavily. I don't too much anymore. So done with Hollywood. I could give you a whole podcast about how and why my short Hollywood career happened and ended, and what my perceptions and why I'd never go back. Pretty amazing. Let's see here. All right, here's a good one on We Are Change from Luke. Republicans are going after free speech. And okay, it's a video. All right. Yeah, Luke mostly does videos. Good NewsBlur to follow. Yeah, pretty much everything's a video. I don't think he does a lot of published writing articles, which is fine because I know a guy. I was like, hey, yeah, man, you should read Dune before we go see the movie. The Dune books, right? The Frank Herbert Dune books, 1 through 6, right? He died after he wrote Chapter House Dune. And, you know, let's just say that one really left you hanging. So it's kind of like Frank Herbert's joke. But the way he writes those books, he'll describe a room with a page and a half of description and the characters before they start talking. So really, really deep stuff, you know, really, really builds an image in your head. And the last book had surfing in it, which I thought was great. Just a little mention, but just that the surfing is 10,000 years in the future. Fuck yeah. You know, I like that. Now this one might be my favorite, Zero Hedge. And most articles seem to be written by Tyler Durden, which is his nom de plume, which is the antagonist in Fight Club. So let's see what he's writing about today. Canoe CEO's private jet expenses were double the company's revenue for 2023. All right, so Canoe is this, I guess it's an electric car. Is it just an EV or is it a drive by itself car? Don't know yet. I guess they all eventually are going to be drive by themselves cars. If you aren't using discernment, you'll just jump right in. But I'm sure at some point it'll be all right. I'd be okay with a an AI air car, a drone, come pick you up. That you don't have to deal with the flight controls. You don't have to be a pilot. You just tell it where you want to go, and it would GPS you there. I don't have a problem with that. And in fact, for the longest time, I was wondering, how could you get away with a reality like they showed in the beginning of Blade Runner, and then what was the Dimension one with the woman, Mila Jovovich. I can't remember the name of that movie. It wasn't that great of a movie, but the city and the visual effects were awesome. And I was always wondering, well, how are you going to do that without people crashing? And in heavy metal too, there's flying cars. In the Harry Canyon vignette, and clearly the way to do that is with GPS and AI piloting those vehicles, and you just kind of telling it where you want to go, and it works out all the calculations for you, much like the fly-by-wire type controls that we have in modern jets. The new jets, like the stealth bomber, and I'm not sure about the F-35, but like the stealth bomber is just so weird to fly that you tell it where to go, you move the stick, and your movement doesn't exactly move the ailerons. That movement sends it to a computer that works out what it needs to do to go where you want to go. That's fly-by-wire. So I could see quadcopters, hexacopters, whatever, that could carry people, that you could operate like that. And of course, at that point though, you probably don't want to badmouth like an industrialist that builds weapons or something, because we saw what happened to those people just with like cars that could be hacked into. So if you're cruising around, I'm going to the beach today, flying in my board. Oh no, we're going into the bridge. Then maybe you shouldn't have said bad things about that guy that was making missiles or something. I don't know. I don't really know how that works. Okay. Another interesting place to get information is ATS, above top secret. And they do make you create an account and log in, but there's some pretty interesting, the forum is amazing. And then this one is like, earthquake now, feeling it here in Wilmington, Delaware. All right. So that's interesting. So, and then we know New York had one. So this is kind of like your boots on the ground kind of conspiracy clearinghouse where people can interact. I've also heard really interesting theories on here about chemtrails, and that how the goal of the chemtrail program is to block certain frequencies from the sun that might activate a human being's pineal gland, thus making us uncontrollable and perhaps even on a certain level superhuman. Years ago at a UFO conference, I heard Whitley Strieber talk about a time in our future where people would essentially have mind over matter, like a causal collapse, right? Where like you have work and time, right? That's your cause and effect. And if the idea is, if you cross the event horizon of a black hole, that work and time intersect, meaning thought becomes work, or thought will manifest for you. Man, it's just so confusing. And even after watching Interstellar again recently, I've come up with the idea that, okay, well, that movie, I got it from the movie. I didn't come up with the idea, but I got from that movie that someone out there is pretty sure gravity is our fifth dimension, and that might be a key to understanding basically how to space warp, how to create stable wormholes and live past just the physical, and maybe it's a civilization of beings that are basically light bodies. I don't know. I don't know. It was amazing. It's still an amazing film. And what are you going to do? Matthew McConaughey? Come on. I know he's a Democrat and a bit anti-gun, but I tell you what, he's definitely a positive influence other than some of that stuff. But in terms of just being a human being, he did a really cool little podcast where he raised money for, there was really bad tornadoes when I lived in Texas up north, and I gave him $100. I mean, what are you going to do? Was I charmed out of the $100 by Matthew McConaughey? You know, maybe, but also I felt part of I was like new to Texas, and I was really into being a Texan, and I liked it. I still have my Python boots that I wear to the 11th Street Cowboy Bar and Grill. It's not the grill, it's just the 11th Street Cowboy Bar in Bandera, Texas, which might be better than Lookenbach, Texas. For authentic Texas, man, you want to go somewhere and listen to some music, and still drinking back then, get drunk, meet some Marines. I had a good time. Met some women. Happens. Of course, there's InfoWars. Big old fat site. I don't need to tell you any more about that. You know they're going to be cutting edge, but maybe you don't know that it's not just a podcast. It's not just a TV show or a web show. It's also a news aggregation site with all your latest, bestest stuff for you to use your own discernment. Here's one. MSNBC, terrified Trump considering Kash Patel as Attorney General. Yeah, he'd be pretty good. How about Dan Bongino? How about Alex Jones as the press secretary? That'd be my favorite. That'd be really good. I'd pay money. You want to build the wall fast? Make Alex Jones your press secretary and make it pay-per-view. We'll do that. And then another one. Now, this guy used to be friends with Alex Jones. Jeff Rentz, Rentz.com. He gets pretty gnarly with the, I don't want to say anti-Semitism, but he gets a little gnarly with that. I wouldn't say 100% anti-Semitic, but let's put it this way. I don't think he's got a lot of Jewish friends. Let's put it that way. But it's a good news aggregation site. He also has his own show, and it's got some interesting guests. I don't know about his ads, though. I don't know. Anyway, but again, more information for you to use your own discernment, right? That's what this show is about. Don't listen to me. Listen to my podcast, but don't listen to what anybody that's going to tell you what not to listen to, unless, of course, it's mainstream media, then by all means, listen to them. Now, another thing that I did today is I signed up for some sites on Discord, or I'd say some Discord channels. And this one is Fluffy Secret Hideout. Not exactly sure about that one. I just joined to that one. And then World of Conspiracies. Just the image board itself is interesting. Definitely strong anti-Zionist content with that meme. Yeah, someone trying to hypnotize you there. And let's see this one. POV Dream Vacations. Girls, oh my God, let's go to Paris. Boys. Yeah, railroad. I still love trains. When I lived in Atlanta, I very specifically got my rail pass to ride the train to work. It was also smarter because Traffic there is crazy. Proves time travel's real. If you're on the 285 and an hour later you're like 3 feet from where you started. Yeah, I just traveled through time backwards. But you know, yeah, that's yeah. So yeah, that's another thing that you need to be careful of is there's going to be a lot of anti-Semitism and so even flat earthers out there. There was a guy I was following who seemed pretty reasonable until the eclipse on X. I was following until the whole eclipse thing came up, and I admit I fell for the shadow going backwards and forgot that shadows move the opposite of the light source. I forgot about that. Can't really do it here because, yeah, there you go. But he used the eclipse and people not understanding the path and how opposites move in the opposite, shadows move in the opposite direction of the sun to support his flat earth hypotheses. I wasn't having it. All right. So, what are we doing? We are supported by Bitcoin. I am a Bitcoin holder. Therefore, Bitcoin is a sponsor of this show. Why would you want Bitcoin? Well, Josie, the red-haired libertarian, and Clint, the bald guy from Liberty Lockdown. Yeah, any chance I get, Clint, you know I'm going to make sure I know that everyone knows you're bald, and I'm always going to call you out on it. And we'll try to get you a nice hat or a leading man wig, like Steve McGarrett. Wow. You'll be the shit. I don't know what's going on with that goatee, though. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like if you're bald, you need a goatee to balance. I don't know. But anyway, we do the Bitcoin. I highly recommend it. Bitcoin is money. It's an appreciating asset. And there is no central bank on the planet that can take it away. Do the math. So, that's all we have for the Manx Labrada's Mysterious World podcast all day. Thank you very much for your time. It's another great day in America. Thank you.